I'm going to start this presentation with a short video clip of a couple of our students talking about their experience of working with a student engagement coach. I think it's important in terms of context that you are aware that the students were unattended and unprompted during this video. And the reason that we're starting with this clip is really CFEM, we're all in this for the students. And so I thought their feedback really is the most important part of this presentation.
Maths in general, not good at all. Last year helped a little bit, but
yeah,
just did not think I was going to pass in any way.
Yeah.
Had no confidence in it.
She gave like a welcoming presence, someone that you could like, someone's like, yeah, that's like reliable, like to talk to, and that if you like struggled with like say a question,
you're not scared to tell her.
Yeah.
She's actually like, they're going to help, rather than saying, like, rather than being nervous to tell her anything. And then, I don't know, like, because when you've got a teacher at the front, you're not going to put your hand up all the time.
Yeah.
Like with me, I get nervous for asking questions in like a group area.
Yeah.
So the coach is going to help because they're talking to you. It's mainly for people that don't have the confidence to say that sort of stuff, so it's really helpful.
Yeah.
And that helped me to talk to her about things, and then even work with methods and stuff she'd tell me. So how did you feel at the end?
I felt a lot more confident in like the capability that I don't know what I can do like maths wise. Like at the start, I don't know. I reckon I struggled with like a few things and that, but since like the coach or Georgie has been there helping in that, I feel like a lot more confident in what I can do.
My methods have got way better because them repeating it and bashing it into our ears so much, we completely know the methods. What I do.
Yeah.
You obviously have got a lot better at it as well, but me to do it.
And they also focus on like a key bit. So say if you were doing like algebra or something like that and you didn't have a clue about that, they'd focus on that more than, like say if you were struggling on that with a test, they'd focus on that more than like other bits in the test or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it just feels really good that, you know, that you've done a lot of work and it makes you feel a lot better if you get like the right answer on that.
Mm-hmm. We'll talk about how you had maths teachers before, because you said about like having past maths teachers that didn't. I think the main thing is that they didn't tend to all of the classes. It's always like they're teaching what they have to teach and it's done. They don't tend to people specifically, whereas like they know, Julie and Georgie both know who needs what. Like they know you specifically. Like for me, they knew that I would be like, you know, not very confident and that I'd need help. And then they'd ask me genuinely rather than just, you believe you can do something rather than just saying, I can't do that. That's the same with me. That's the main thing, like, that I've found as well, like, in general.
Yeah.
So heard from a couple of our brick learners there who I think you'll agree were surprisingly positive about their experience. So how did we get to that stage? Well, some of you may remember Michael's presentation from last year. We ran a project to improve student engagement and motivation through the use of student engagement coaches. And in that first year, we had issues around recruitment, lockdown 1, logistics, getting things through SMT. And last year, I'm sure Michael would agree, we had some concerns about the number of learners we worked with, and because of that, the reliability of our findings, really. This year, despite more lockdowns and online learning, we're more confident in our findings, and I hope that this presentation reflects that. And these are our lovely coaches, so Christine, Renata, and Georgie. So a little bit of context then. This year, our 3 coaches had already been in post from Easter the previous year, which was a massive advantage. However, we did still have some challenges. The maths team was dispersed here at the start of the year, and maths teachers were placed in vocational departments, This meant that there were issues around timetabling and often meant that you ended up with 3 different teachers for one class. And because some of these were in different vocational areas, it made communication a little more challenging. On top of that, we all had students who had limited teaching in lockdown 1, came into college in a socially distanced environment with centre awarded grades. Adding to that lockdown 2, online learning and learners that we'd not yet built solid relationships with, I think this year was more challenging in many ways. So as I said, we have 3 coaches. All were seconded from learning support and were experienced in working with learners in an FE setting. Students were selected from the 5 teachers in the Action Research Group to avoid overwhelming the coaches. And the process of this then, the teachers submitted a referral form, which was based on this criteria. Our coaches would then look into student history, their attendance in all subjects. They would discuss with the vocational teacher to gain a full picture of the student. And once they had decided that the learner was a good fit, they then would approach them to determine the individualised approach needed. So what was it that our coaches did? So strategies included pastoral support, so very much positive language, creating an environment where there was no judgment, celebrating mistakes, reminding them of their ability. Very much a coach and teacher collaboration where we had a lot of conversations around learner progress, wellbeing concerns, the approaches to take, and the initial contact to make. Academic support, I think, speaks for itself, but as well as face-to-face and online, we offered some one-to-ones for students. Creating a safe environment to allow them to discuss their experiences of maths and validating those feelings. In-class support, again, speaks for itself alongside the pastoral, checking in on mindsets, encouraging a safe learning environment, and modelling mistakes in a very positive manner. Reframing, so this is where we change the way learners view maths and their experience. So challenging any negative language, explaining where they're going to need maths and the importance of it. And again, anxiety management speaks for itself, giving them the strategies to go forward. So we decided to use OneNote as a tool for communication as well as a data source. And this is where teachers completed referrals and coaches kept reflective journals, which they would add to every time they'd seen a learner. Everything was stored in OneNote and everyone had access. We tried to make it as simple as possible with reflection templates, automated alerts, clear instructions. And it also meant we could use it from home, which in lockdown was really, really important. For our data collection, we decided to use a mix of qualitative and quantitative methods, as we felt this triangulation would help increase the validity of our findings. So as you can see, teacher referrals and coach reflections were our source of qualitative data, which we discussed earlier. But to gather the quantitative data, we collected attendance data to compare before they worked with the coach and after, to see if there was any change. And we also created questionnaires for learners to complete about their experiences. The questionnaire was multiple choice answers with an option to add any extra comments at the end of each question. So once we had carried out thematic analysis on our reflections and referrals, we identified a number of themes. So the first one of this was the evidence of disengagement. So how did they present? So low attendance, including online and face-to-face. Lack of focus, so very distracted, engaging with peers, little or no work completed. Avoidance techniques, checking their phone frequently, avoiding eye contact, hood up, hat on, and trying their very hardest to distract the teacher off topic. And then lack of response online, I'm sure you're all very aware of, not replying to Teams messages or emails, being in a math session but not contributing in any way. We then looked at what these reasons were for that disengagement, and we split that into two, so maths related and non-maths related. So the maths related, I think you're probably the stuff that you would expect. So gaps in knowledge, so being confused with the maths content, a lack of confidence in their ability, those negative comments about what they can and can't do. I'm sure we've never heard of questioning the application of maths, where would I ever use this? And dissatisfaction with their current grade, they're not happy with it, they feel it's a grade lower than it should be. The non-maths related then was very much fear of judgment kept coming out, not wanting to answer in front of class. Maths environment, and in that we included teaching style, physical space, the number of peers in a class, and we found in a pandemic classroom with smaller classes, that seemed to create more anxiety because everybody could hear what was going on in a room. Online learning, the style of learning, the visibility of answers in Teams, you know, the permanence of it, and the learner's technical skill was not always where we hoped it was. External issues were access to equipment, difficult to access learning support. We had a number that struggled with mental health issues and personal circumstances this year. So the analysis of attendance data revealed that 65% of our learners showed an increase in attendance after working with a coach compared to prior. However, the attendance does not give the full picture, and I think there are limits in its reliability. So for example, we had a number of learners for who the pandemic affected attendance. So we had a few that were in and out of hospital. Sadly, we had a number that were bereaved. And we had some that had to self-isolate on more than one occasion. And we had an increase in mental health issues, which really did affect attendance. Also, for some learners, whilst they might not have attended lessons, their engagement was evident in different ways. So they were more confident to answer questions in class. They might not have attended a lesson, but they would attend one-to-ones with coaches outside of the lesson, which was step one. Or they might have been more comfortable asking questions in class. I'm going to show a short clip of our coaches discussing the learner feedback.
I also observe how well students reacted to praise and to their achievement. Once they achieve something, once they overcome an obstacle, how they blossomed and how more confident they were. Yeah. So I think this is the way to go, to strengthen the confidence that helps them to develop and believe in their abilities and succeed this way.
Yeah, they need that, don't they? They need much more praise than they do.
Yeah.
I think that's well known, isn't it? You remember the negative much more than the positive, so you need to give lots and lots of praise.
And I think sometimes we assume that they would have had that praise before, but actually that's not always the case.
Not necessarily.
And so many students just kind of slip through the cracks
yes.
and haven't had that positive experience in maths with anybody. And so sometimes they just need to have someone who takes an interest in them and says, oh, actually, you know, you might think you're terrible at maths overall, but have you seen, like in this topic, you've actually remembered this, this, and this, and you've been able to connect these dots. And then they kind of think, oh yeah.
Yeah, or they're good at algebra, for example. So I've said to a student, wow, you can do algebra. I can't do algebra very well. And really sort of, wow, you know, that's amazing that you're good at algebra. So if you're good at algebra, then there's no reason you can't do the rest. So you sort of pick up the strengths, any strengths they do have, and then work from there. It does help me be more confident about asking questions, and that is massive, isn't it? To have that confidence, to not just sit there struggling and not being able to put their hand up and say, I need help with this, and actually get the help that they need, because that is the case, isn't it, with a lot of students who just struggle on pretending that they're doing it and actually not having a clue.
Exactly, and we see here a shift don't we?
Yeah.
From a shy, lost student to a confident one who is not afraid to ask questions and solve the problem.
Yeah.
And this way they also become more independent. And this is what we aspire to, for our students to be more independent, more resilient.
And more active in their learning as well. You know, rather than having, that's what we wanted, that was our intention at the beginning, wasn't to have them rely on us, not to be there so that we could be there all the time for them, but more so that we could give them the tools so that they feel comfortable to do it themselves. And that just shows that they do.
They do, yeah.
They feel comfortable and they feel responsible for their own learning. They want to achieve and they're not afraid to find the tools how to achieve it. So this is very positive.
That's really good.
So as discussed earlier, we put out a questionnaire to capture student feedback about their experience of working with a coach and whether this had altered their mindset and perception of their mathematical ability. And I must say we were very surprised with how open learners were in the questionnaire, with many of them using the optional boxes to make additional comments about their experiences. And what we found was 81% of students went from feeling stressed or worried to hopeful and even excited. 94% of them said that having a coach present in their face-to-face lessons made them feel more comfortable. Moving forward, unfortunately, we cannot run the project for another year. However, this year we have identified the value in addressing learners' psychological barriers to maths through coaches, and we would like to develop this further. So next year, what we plan to do is employ a teacher-coach model, where a coach will work full-time with a teacher to help plan and deliver maths lessons. The goal is to create a safe maths environment where the teacher will be responsible for academic needs of the learners, and the coach will focus on the psychological and the emotional barriers in relation to maths. Because what we found this year, that although coaches were working with one-to-ones, whole groups of students in class responded well to the presence of a coach, and we'd like to develop it further to reach more students. So to end this presentation, what I want to do is to just leave you with some of the comments that our learners shared in the optional box on their questionnaire.
Julie, that's fantastic. Thank you so much.
I'm almost done.
That's brilliant. That's super timing as well. That's great.
I just wanted you to see, because there were so many comments, I think it's really important that they have the last word.
And the first word is a lovely way of kicking us off. Fantastic.
Okay, and that's my last one.